Hey there, it's Eris, and I thought I would do a video about my top 10 tarot decks that I've been enjoying using the most this year. So these aren't decks that are necessarily new to me or new releases this year. I don't think I have many decks in this list that are new releases this year, but they are the decks that, when I look back through my tarot journal, they're the decks that I use the most and got the most out of in terms of working with them. They're not the only decks I use, but they're the decks I use the most. So I found if I wasn't resonating with something, I'd use it for 1 or 2 or 3 days and then it would disappear off the pile and I would go back to the old faithfuls. And I find that I work quite seasonally with decks as well. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to share with you my top 10 decks. And as a bonus, I've got some Oracle decks at the end that I've been pairing with them as well. So my first deck that I used a fair bit, particularly in the first part of the year, like I'd say this was summer, autumn, is this one. It's the Radiant Wise Spirit. I've trimmed it and edged it in black, and because I've been using it a bit, the edging's kind of become a bit worn. So I kind of like that. I don't think I'm feeling too inclined to touch it up or anything. I really like the colours in this particular Smith Waite. I think it's really luminous and it does the artwork justice, and it's been, I don't know what happened there. Oh my god. I think the bag it was in got wet. I've changed bags since then, so I can't remember why the Seven of Pentacles has that stain on it. It shocks me every time I see it. I'm like, oh, what happened? Oh, that's right. Yeah, so I really enjoy this deck. And it's one of the reasons why I subscribed to the Total Tarot subscription, because I just really wanted this deck. And then I was in too deep and I kept going with it, and now I'm overwhelmed with decks. Low Scarabeo decks, that a lot of which I don't resonate with, but I've been exploring some of them, but this is the only one that's appearing in the top 10. This has become like my default reading deck as well. It goes traveling with me a fair bit. And I just really like it. I like having the Pamela Coleman Smith illustrations. It's how I first learned tarot, and I just love this deck, and the coloring and everything. So yeah, that is, I hope I've got the name of it right, Radiant Wise Spirit. And I really like the backs as well. And this is the bag it lives in, the Empress. Very nice. Very cutesy, very demure. Yeah, just tie her up there. Next. The next deck is the Cosmic Wisdom Tarot by Ethany. This one I think she did on Kickstarter maybe, or pre-order or something like that. I just remember getting a lot of emails updating the arrival of this one, and when it came I really enjoyed working with it. So the box is very beautiful. If you're familiar with Ethany Productions, you kind of know what you're in for when it comes to the quality. We've got magnetic kind of box there, and I really love the book. I'll show you the book in a second. This is the deck. Just so lovely. First edition, limited print of 2023. So I think it was produced in 2023 and I received it this year. So these are the backs. Gold foil with like, I think it's like a hollow gold. And the artwork is by James Fenner. James Fenner is the artist. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think she saw the artwork in a tarot group that he had done for the wedding of a couple or something along those lines, and she'd saw it and contacted them and said, let's turn this into a full deck. I love this artwork. And it's very colorful. It's very bright, very vivid. The color palette is every color on the palette, which, you know, I find I accidentally in my life end up with lots of really colorful decks. I don't have a lot of decks that are of the muted pastel black and white kind of aesthetic. I tend to go for the let's use every single color on the palette kind of decks. Yeah, so I really enjoyed using this deck, in particular when I first received it. I love the sun. The sun's beautiful. I love the face on the sun. I think that's one of my favorite. Sorry, I'll angle it towards you, not towards me. I think that's one of my favorite cards in the deck. I often love the sun. So yeah, the Cosmic Wisdom Tarot. The ace is pretty cool as well. I love the little froggy in the cup. And that's really beautiful. The Chariot's interesting. Kind of riding one horse and rounding up the other, which is very interesting. I won't go through them all, but yeah, I have really enjoyed the bright vividness of this deck. I love the borders as well. Yeah, pretty cool. And what's really cool about this deck is the guidebook. So in the guidebook, it's very simple. That's what you get. And it's some keywords for upright, some keywords for reverse, a simple interpretation of whether it's a yes, no, if that's what you're looking for. And then a simple little like white book-esque catchphrase, and then an explanation of the symbolism in the actual card itself. So I might actually go back to the Chariot and find out what's the deal with those horses. Lasso, building energy, finding control. Charioteer, taming energy and drive. Horses, opposing forces, strong energy. Oh yeah, so one horse is control and the other horse is wild. So it's that idea of that opposing forces going in different directions. Yeah, that's cool. And I like how for the upright and for the reverse, there's like one affirmation or kind of catchphrase. So I've totally got this versus what does this button do, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I think this guidebook would have to be one of my favorite guidebooks, and it's full color and it's the same for every single card throughout the entire deck. And yeah, I think the only thing, there's a couple of readings at the start. The only thing that's missing for me is information about the artist and the creator, which I always like to see in a guidebook. So that would be cool to have if there's ever another edition of that deck. Hint, hint. Ethne, if you are watching this. So that's the Cosmic Wisdom Tarot. I quite enjoyed having a play with that one, particularly in the autumn. So autumn for me was back in March, April, May. I think what happened was I was working with it a fair bit in March, and then I went away and used something else, and that was it. I'd moved on, but I might come back to that now that I've had another play with it. The next one was controversial for me. It was the Lightseers Tarot. When it came out in a tin, I saw it in a bookshop in a beautiful bookstore called New Edition Books in Fremantle, and I bought it on impulse just because I needed that serotonin boost. And there's something about decks in a tin that's just so satisfying, and I thought, well, I've heard so much about this deck. I've seen it recommended by so many people saying how much they love it. I've never really resonated with the artwork, but I'll give it a go. And you know what? This deck, as much as there's aspects of the aesthetic that I don't really jam with, so there's a vibe here that's not quite my vibe, you can't deny that this deck, it reads. It reads really well, it works really well, and I would actually recommend this deck to a lot of beginners who find it difficult to tap into the traditional tarot imagery but still want a deck to learn tarot with. And the mini size, it's so cute. This is my first mini deck and I'm loving it. I want more. I'm contemplating taking this with me when I go traveling, but again, I think it's the choice of reference images that I'm not quite resonating with. It's a little stock image, if you know what I mean. But that's okay. I mean, I'm a bit guilty of that in the penumbra here and there. And it's something I'm consciously trying to move away from in the Callisti Tarot. But some of them, like this King of Swords, I just love. I know he's got a man bun, but still, that's cool. So if you can just forgive the, I guess, editorial illustration style, which is not normally my personal style. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying it's not personally my style. Then you might love this deck. And I know a lot of people who do love this deck. And I enjoyed playing with it and working with it with another Oracle deck that I have that has a similar vibe. I guess it's a little new age is what I'm getting at, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And it's full of colours, which you probably noticed so far. My colour palette theme is definitely continuing with this video. I want to be cooler than this. I want to have like a darker edge, but I just don't. I'm a rainbow queen. I don't know. It's interesting that ace is very similar to the ace in the element of pentacles in the penumbra. I swear I didn't see this before I did mine. I don't know who did their artwork first, but it's pretty. I've seen that in heaps of tarot decks and oracle decks, now that I think about it. It's a bit of an archetypal image. Like, I feel like if you're a spiritual entrepreneur, you would love this deck. Yeah, it's very, very that. If you know what I'm saying. A heart-centered business owner. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. Anyways, I'll stop being sassy. This deck is in this video because I like it, okay? I just want to make that really clear. And, oh God, the mini size. I'm a fan. And I love the tin. There's something about a tin, isn't there? The guidebook's fine. I don't think I've ever used it, to be honest. So I can't give a solid opinion. Next, I'm gonna increase my cool points right now. The next deck I loved using in the wintertime was the Slow Holler Tarot. And this deck is out of print. You can't get it anymore. And if you try and get it, you have to pay hundreds of dollars. So I tell my partner, if something happens to me, don't just donate my decks. Sell this one because you'll get some money for it. But I love this deck. I can't even remember the full story. I think it was a Kickstarter or indie. It's indie, and they just did this really cool thing, and then they dipped and they were never seen again, and people have been crying out for this to be reprinted. What I like about it is, even though it's a collaborative deck and there's, I think, maybe half a dozen to a dozen artists who created artwork for this deck, they limited the color palette and unified it because of the way that they curated and editorialized and drew together all the imagery and the cards. The symbolism is just so beautiful. And the court cards, the way they're interpreted is so unique. And this wasn't being done that much when this deck was produced. So we have Visionary. I'll just have a look at the guidebook to get a... So there's all the collaborators and contributors. The rename cards. So we have the Visionary for the Queen, the Architect for the King, the Traveller for the Knight, and the Student for the Page. Wands are branches, swords are knives, stones are pentacles, and vessels are cups. And then there's alternative names for a lot of the major arcana as well. And back then, that wasn't that common. Now it feels like nearly every... it's just so common now. Which can make it confusing, I think, for some people. But the imagery in this deck is just so beautiful. And I often find myself only doing one card pulls when I work with the slow holler, because there's just so much to contemplate in each card that when I'm doing a daily draw, it's usually the one if I'm going slow holler. I love the combo of gold, red, black and white. This is such a memorable Six of Vessels to me. Six of Cups. And I love the court cards. This deck's just really inspiring. So the Navigator instead of the Emperor, which is really interesting. I was using this in the post-Samhain, pre-winter solstice kind of era. I find it's great for, forgive me, I don't have a better term, shadow work. Working with the inner self. And yeah, I just love this deck. I should have it in a... It's probably my most coveted deck in terms of like things that are hard to get in my collection that I know of. And I'm really pleased to have it, and it always feels like a privilege to work with it. I just love it. I love this magician. I just love everything about this deck. Oh my god. Slow holler. Iconic. So yeah, that's up my cool points after all my little candy crystal rainbow moments that we're probably about to dive back into a tiny bit, but not too much, but just a tiny bit. So the next deck is probably the deck I used the most this year. This surprised me. When I looked through my diary, I was blown away by how often I actually reached for this deck and how regularly I used it. It was probably my most used deck of the year, and that's This Might Hurt Tarot. I feel like if Light Seers and Slow Holler had a baby, it would be the This Might Hurt Tarot. Like, odd couple, right? But yeah, I have the edition that has this crazy gilding on it, which I don't love gilding necessarily, but it exists. So yeah, like I said, if Slow Holler and Light Seers had a baby, it would be This Might Hurt. And I love how linked to RWS it is, but also how it's got a little bit of an edge to it. And I just noticed the strawberry dress of the Empress. What a queen. Yeah, it's easy to read. It's so easy to read. So accessible. Got a really clear voice. And the imagery has a lot of modernity in it, which some people don't like. But I find it balances the modern quite well with still being magical, in my opinion. So I kind of like that. I really love this Temperance. It reminds me of Tilda Swinton's character in Constantine. I've forgotten what. I think she played some kind of archangel, and that's what this reminds me of a little bit. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool deck. What a cute Four of Wands. And it's funny, going through these right now makes me want to go start using it again. More This Might Hurt. More. It's becoming one of my favorite decks ever. Yeah. So that's probably my top used, most used. If there was an award, it would be This Might Hurt for most reached for category. I mean, look at that King of Pentacles. Yeah. And cool backs too. What I love about this deck is when you read the guidebook, that the creator didn't really know a lot about tarot. They just went, oh, I want to do a tarot deck. And I kind of love that. Probably what makes it so original. The next deck was last summer's probably most used deck, and that's this one, Dame Darcy's Mermaid Tarot. I got this before I did some research on it and found out that a lot of the art in this is just a little bit plagiarized. Which, you know, what's new in art really? But it kind of put me off a little bit. But at the same time, I'm such a fan of Dame Darcy's style, and if I had money to burn, I'd probably go get all of her decks. I just love her irreverent, kind of punk zine aesthetic. There's something very, I don't know, 80s zine, alternative culture about her work. And the gilding's so weird on this. It's like a peachy glitter, which the cardstock is like solidly thick. It's a bit too much for me, but anyways. So apparently a lot of the artwork in this deck was pretty much directly inspired by another tarot deck, I think called Tarot of the Mermaids or something like that. Excuse me. And then she went back and changed a few just to like try and not, I don't know, be so direct with the inspiration. So I don't know which one I have. I don't know if I have the one that's copied or not, and I kind of don't want to look into it anymore because I just want to enjoy this deck for what it is, knowing that, you know, in the history of making tarot, so many people do that with the like traditional tarot images. So what's wrong with, I don't know, it's kind of complicated. I get it. It's very postmodern. I don't know. It's a tricky conversation. But it's undeniably like still Dame Darcy. It's definitely her art, the way it's done. And this is so not mermaidy that it makes me wonder if this was one of the ones that she changed, and this is the changed deck. I'll have to investigate it if I wanted to know, which I just said that I don't want to know. So there you go. And I love how slapdash the titles are. Like she's just gone ahead and drawn in her own block writing really crazily, and I kind of want to do that in my own deck. Like I kind of love it. It's really messy, but I love it. Like you'd think a deck about chaos witchcraft would have that in it, maybe. I don't know. So yeah, that's the Dame Darcy Mermaid Tarot. She has a cat one that I really want to get, that I think I will get. treat myself. Yeah, I want to find my cat deck, like the cat deck that I want to work with. I have another cat deck, but I need the Dame Darcy one. Next is Terra Volatile, or volatile. I've heard it pronounced volatile, which I think is amazing, but the word is volatile, so I don't know how it's pronounced. I don't have the book for it, so I've been fighting blind, trying to interpret this deck, and now I'm fighting to get the bag open. Just let me in. Someone local makes these, and I bought them off Etsy, and then I realized she was posting within my town to me to get this to me, and they're just such lovely bags. And I bought this bag to house this deck. I was going to do a video on it, but then I remembered I wasn't using my YouTube channel anymore, but I have the expansion pack, and I've replaced a lot of the cards with the expansion pack. So what I've got here has well, this no card for starters. I put the yes and no cards in, but they've kind of been annoying me a little bit, so I might take them out. So I did replace some of the cards when the expansion pack came out, because some of the cards I really wasn't okay with in terms of how they've been interpreted. But this deck is really beautiful, and it's definitely a winter vibe. The quartz in particular, some of them I really enjoy. This Queen of Coins with the little rabbit, I love it. There has to be a rabbit in the Queen of Coins. There has to be a cat in the Queen of Wands. Yeah, so this deck I was reaching for a lot in the winter, and this was my stalker card, the Princess of Swords. So love that message for me. Don't know why I kept getting that one. The Empress. Yeah, it's a great deck, and now that I have replaced them, I couldn't actually tell you off the top of my head. See, there's the cat, Queen of Wands, Essential. Yeah, I couldn't tell you exactly which ones I replaced, but some of the major arcana had really clear replacements, and there were a scattering of replacements in the minor arcana. But because it's been a few months since I worked with this deck, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head which ones were the ones I swapped. This might have been one of them, actually, now that I'm looking at it. I think this is the Four of Wands, and that was one that I replaced, I think. Because I think the original Four of Wands had imagery that was a little colonial, like it was a bit not cool, you know. But I can't remember. And this... You were asking so there's a yes, no, and you were asking the wrong question. So a little bit like Magic 8 Ball kind of mixed in there. And so that's really annoying to draw that in the tarot reading. So I think I might take them out. Like I said, the court cards are great. It's like cracking open a really dusty old book, leather bound. And it smells a particular way. Authority, I think I swapped that one instead of the Emperor. But if you'd like me to do a video on which ones I swapped and which ones I kept, I mean, I will. There's popular demand. But every time I say that, no, I get no comments. So I'm probably just talking to myself here. Yeah, so that's Terra Volatile, or Terra Volatile. Is that the name of the deck? I don't even know now. Terra Volatile, Terra Volatile, I don't know. I'll be honest, I was really inspired by Foolish Fish to get that deck, and yeah, it was good in the winter. But in the summer, I need something brighter. One of the other most used decks this year is this one. Same creator of the bags that I was telling you about. This is the first bag I bought, and then I went and bought 2 more because I love their bags so much. And if I remember the name of the store, I'll link it down below. This is the Bonefire Tarot. This is the original Bonefire, so it does have the glossy finish, and I decided to edge it in both red and purple. I'd love to get the new edition of the Bonefire, but because I haven't had this one for very long, I can't justify it. Again, we've got the bright colours, but the edge as well at the same time. I love how wild this deck is. And again, it's that drawing the name of the card in the card itself. And I haven't really looked at the new edition of this deck, but I'm wondering if they've gotten rid of the vignette border, because I'm not a massive fan of that. I hope it's borderless, but I don't know. I find these cards a little too wide as well. That's a bit of a pain to shuffle, but I love this deck. And what I love the most about this deck is the guidebook, which I can't get for you right now. It's in a hard to access shelf, but the guidebook really inspired me as to what guidebooks could be. And I love the creator being the artist, and the artist just going crazy in the guidebook, word vomiting all this information. And I thought, oh, I love this. I love that kind of dynamic for how to interpret the cards. Because if you're looking at this and you're wanting to know what's the deal with the carrots, the pie, the horns, you really need to know that information from the artist, and you get it from this creator, whose name I've now forgotten. I think I've forgotten her name a couple of times on this channel. Let me just figure out what her name is, because I have all of her decks just about. Gabby Angus West. Special mention to the Tarot Avatar, which I worked with heaps last year and I loved so much. But I really went back to Bonefire this year, and in particular the guidebook, as research for my new deck that I haven't been working on as much as I would like. How cool is that 8 of coins? Yeah, I've loved working with the Bonefire, and I just really love this deck. I don't love the cardstock, but that's been rectified in the new edition, I believe. Maybe after all this talk, I need to just get it. But I'm quite attached to this refurbished. What am I saying? I'm quite attached to my deck because I have been working with it so much. Next one is going to be familiar to you if you've been watching my newer videos. It's the Tarot of the Crystal World. This is the deck that I've been doing Tarot Advent with, and I've just loved working with it. So I've only got half the cards in this box because I'm halfway through Tarot Advent, but you can see the linen finish, the gold gilding, and I don't want to go through these because I want it to be a surprise, but it has a little white book, and I will show you the cards I have already pulled for my reading. And this is a bag that came with the Kickstarter. And this bag actually reminds me of some Barbie clothes I had in the 80s. It was printed this way on that same kind of fabric, and it gave me tons of nostalgia when I got it. I was like, wow, that reminds me of that one piece of Barbie clothing I had. Sorry for the weird tangent. Yeah, so these cards will be familiar to you if you just watched my other video, but I have been loving getting to know this deck better, and I've only been using it for Tarot Advent. I haven't used this deck at all this year, but it's quickly become my favorite deck, and it's such a great pick for summer as well. And I've really, really, really enjoyed working with it. On a side note, I also have the Crystal World Oracle cards. which I haven't really touched, but I may do once I've finished up with Tarot Advent. I might dig into these a bit and explore how to use them with the Tarot of the Crystal World, because that's the little white book, I guess, that came for the Oracle as well. So yeah, loved working. So that's number 9, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, I'm going to put them in the right place. So those are all the cards I've already drawn for Tarot Advent, those ones. And the others are yet to come. And because I haven't really looked at the deck that much since I got it, I'm going to save looking at them as a surprise. Last but not least, 4 tarot decks that I've been using this year, my top 10 is one of my old faithfuls. Once again, one of these amazing bags by that really cool creator whose Etsy I will find and link below. Deviant Moon. This is a deck whose second edition I did get because it was borderless, which tells me I need to get the new Bonefire because I love this deck so much. So when this borderless version came out, I had to get it. I just love Deviant Moon. And again, I reached for this one a lot in the dark half of the year. I often do have this one on the pile of cards for the dark half of the year. I just really love this deck, and I don't have many more words to say about it that I haven't said already, but it hits the notes of having enough color in it to draw my eye and make it really rich and interesting, but at the same time having a lot of grit and darkness to it that I really enjoy as well. And some of them are quite light and happy. I mean, look at that. That's not too sinister looking, right? I think what I really like about this is that it's like the Return to Oz. It's like that dark 80s fantasy, almost like whimsycraft art teacher who did some hard drugs aesthetic. That's not me, by the way, but yeah, I just love how dreamlike and weird and otherworldly the Deviant Moon is. It really is my jam. I adore it. And I love the little creatures in the world of the Deviant Moon. I don't know why I haven't gotten any other decks by the guy who made this. I couldn't tell you why. You can see how messed up my decks are because I have to turn half of them back the right way up. I don't read reversals usually. I don't know how they've all managed to get like this. Must have been a botched riffle shuffle. So, yeah. Dark circus, steampunk, witchy weirdness. Deviant Moon. Right, so those are my top 10 decks of the year. And special honorary mention, 3 Oracle decks that I've been enjoying and reading with. First of all, the Fairies Oracle that I am currently working with in conjunction with the Tarot of the Crystal Moon. You would have just seen this in the video I posted yesterday. But I've been getting to know, this is a deck that some of my friends had, and I don't know why I never had it. And then I have the Heart of Fairy Oracle, but then I saw this one secondhand in really good condition in a secondhand bookstore, in my favorite local secondhand bookstore, and I could not believe it. I was like, oh my God, so exciting. I edged them purple, and I haven't looked back. I'm loving getting to know Frads, fairies all over again. These are very, like when I first started working in a coven and we were doing like readings and healings on each other, this deck was like a main character in a lot of those sessions. So it gives me a lot of nostalgia to work with this deck. It's very early 2000s coming into my witchy kind of weirdness. But at the same time, the art of Brian Froud has always been so inspiring to me. And I just am loving this oracle. I love this guy, the Piper. That reminds me a lot of Wind in the Willows, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, what he would have looked like. Yeah. Very fun, very cute, but in some ways very real, like in the ways that fairies can be real, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah. Next honorary mention is the Twash. Whoops. Twash. The Weird of Sarah Howard. This is such a weird little deck. I got this because I wanted a friend for the Avatara. Sometimes some of my decks need companion ponies. If you're a horse girl or a horse person, do you know what I mean? Like, if the horse gets a bit nervous traveling in the float, you have like a little companion pony to go along with them to events so that it keeps them calm. So this is like the companion pony for the Tarot Avatara, but I find that this ends up being the companion pony for a few of my decks. So this is the Weird of Sarah Howard, and it's really tied to the land that it was created in that I've never been to, so there's a weirdness for me. It's a Lenormand style deck, but I use it as, like I said, a oracle companion pony. So it has I don't really know what. It's got the playing card correlation there. It's not Lenormand. What am I saying? I don't know what it is. It's just this oracle, okay? It's got playing card attributions on it. And a little odd kind of key saying, catchphrase on each deck. And it's very honest. Like, this artist doesn't pull any punches with just creating what they want to create and not really thinking or caring about how the viewers or buyers will see it. They're just following their heart and making their art, their weird, cool art. So again, this is Gabby Angus West, the creator of Bonefire Tarot and Tarot Avatara. I believe she has a new black and white deck out at the moment. And it's very tied to country. So, and there's this whole story written about, so it's the Warrami people, it's Wallace Lake and the Wallambi, it's Wallambi land, I believe. So, and she pays tribute to the lake, and Sarah Howard, who is this, I think they're fictional, this fictional character, I believe. Maybe she's based on a real person. I can't remember. So she describes the Weird of Sarah Howard as a sibling to the Bonefire Tarot. So it literally is a companion pony to Bonefire. It's such an odd little deck. I took this traveling with me as well, and I really enjoyed taking it back to the East Coast, because the lake here obviously has different, like, a different kind of biome to the lake near where I live. So I can really relate to this idea of creating a deck that's connected with the land and like a person of the past that she's channeled to create this narrative. And I believe it's where she walks her dog each day. So there's like layers of things going on. But it's really cool. It's such a, it's weird but sweet. So yeah, that's Twash. Love Twash. And there's a little card from the artist. Thank you for showing Sarah your world. Anytime, Sarah. Last honorary mention. This has been a weird thing that happened to me this year. The Sacred Rebels. I used to have the Sacred Rebels Tarot, and not Oracle, sorry, and I used it so much, like all the time. And then I suddenly brutally fell out of love with it and got rid of it. I don't know why. And then I started to miss it, and then a new edition came out. So I bought it again. And it's come back to my life with a vengeance. So this is a Blue Angel deck, and like a lot of the new Blue Angel oracles, they've had a glow up in terms of the production quality. They now have a matte finish, which is very nice. And I can't remember if the original edition was gloss, had a border or not. But I've been really enjoying having this oracle back in my life. And I mentioned earlier that the Light Seers in this deck have a similar vibe. So I have been doing these pairings where I would be like Cosmic Rebels, and I would pair the Cosmic Wisdom with this deck. Cosmic Wisdom, Sacred Rebels, Cosmic Rebels. So the Cosmic Rebels was a theme I had. I had Light Rebels, which is Light Seers and Sacred Rebels. Yeah, so I've enjoyed pairing this deck. And again, it's an Australian artist, I believe. And Autumn Sky Morrison is the artist's name. And Alana Fairchild does the guidebook. And as new age as Alana Fairchild is, she really writes a good guidebook. She gives good guidebook, you know. So I find drawing one card and reading the message, it's just really nice. And yeah, that's the Sacred Rebels. Every now and then I get into a little bit of Blue Angel action, and this is it. And again, I love the traditional paintings featuring in a deck. And even though I don't think the artist made the art for the deck, it's still cool how they've been curated together here. I've really enjoyed it, and I've liked having it back in my collection, and it's been playing nice, as it always does with certain other decks. So that's it. So that's my conclusion. Those are my 3 bonus decks. I hope you've enjoyed watching this very long video. Oh my god, it's almost 50 minutes. If you've been doing something while you've been watching this video, tell me what you've been doing. If you get to the end, maybe give yourself a pat on the back, because that was long. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye now.